بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد, I was going to say something before, but I let it slide. وإياكم. I still might say Allahu Alam, يعني depends on how much you guys test me. طيب. After speaking about some of the introductory points and speaking about those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised as being from the muhsineen and mentioning some of their traits, and also after that mentioning how they are the successful ones, we move to verse number 6, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ وَيَتَّخِذَهَا هُزُوًا وَأُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. And of mankind is he who purchases idle talk, and that which has no benefit, to mislead others from the path of Allah without knowledge, and he takes it, meaning the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a way of mockery. For such there will be a humiliating torment. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ, and from amongst mankind are those who buy idle talk. They buy idle talk. Lahu al-hadith, anything that doesn't have benefit. Doesn't have a worldly benefit, doesn't have a benefit in the hereafter. And it could be something which is haram in and of itself, which is obviously bad. And the haram has levels. You got things that go all the way up to shirk and kufr. And you got things which are major sins. You got things which are minor sins, etc. Or you may have things which are, they're not haram in and of themselves, but they don't benefit anything. There's no benefit to it whatsoever. And when a person spends a lot of time on that to the extent that it takes him away from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is when this thing is blameworthy and it's looked down upon. When it comes to a lot of what we waste our time on today, it falls into this category. Lahu al-hadith. Things which are of no benefit whatsoever. They either have haram in it, and we enjoy that haram, a'yadhan billah, or it's something, even if it's not haram, but it wastes so much time that it takes away from the purpose that we were created for. What's the main purpose that we were created for? To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one denies that. No one has an issue in understanding that. When a person busies himself with matters which don't have benefit in it, for a person to do it, for a short period of time, to bring about relaxation, when they spoke about this hadith, when they spoke about this ayah, they would say this is talking about al-ghina, music. Ghina here meaning music. Now that people go and they purchase, at that time there's no iPhone and YouTube and the like, they would buy singing girls, slave girls that had nice voices, that would sing, and that would cause a person to be moved away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they would enjoy that which was either haram, or if it was halal for them, if they would spend that much time on it and that much money on it, that it removes them away from the purpose which they were created for. Jayyid. So a lot of the ulama, they specify this verse as singing, and this is one of the verses, if you ever read up about music being haram, which we'll mention inshallah, this is one of the first verses they start off with. Tayyib. Nowadays, a person has in his hand the same thing that many of you subhanAllah are taking notes on, is one of the main reasons for a person to be moved away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes again, it's not necessarily just haram, but the person spends that much time in wasting time that it's of no benefit. Ask him, did he pray Sunnah prayers today? No. Did he attend a lesson today? No. Did he read Quran today? No. Did he visit the sick? No. Did he speak to his parents? No. Did he teach his kids anything? No. Look at the screen time that he spent, 3, 4, 5 hours on absolutely nothing. 3, 4, 5 hours on absolutely nothing, of no benefit whatsoever. There was no worldly benefit, nor was any religious benefit. Okay, this is lahu al-hadith. This is problematic. A person, a Muslim, is always holding himself accountable. He's always holding himself to account. Did I use whatever I have in my life? Did I use it properly? Yes or no? If his answer is no, then he looks to rectify himself. How can I fix the problem that I have? It's no point in a person being depressed and answering himself, no, I wasn't proper, and then he doesn't fix it. He doesn't rectify his affairs. He needs to say, okay, I didn't use it appropriately, what do I need to do? Sometimes you need to delete an app. Sometimes you might need to get rid of your whole phone. It depends. Everyone is different. But the believer who prioritizes the hereafter, who understands why he was created, says, I'm not going to let anything get in the way between me and Allah Azza wa Jal. I'm not going to let anything get in the way between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, the matter of lahu al-hadith, anything which is not beneficial, not in this dunya, nor in the hereafter, this is lahu al-hadith, and he doesn't let it get in the way between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? It's not just a matter of haram. Haram is haram 100%. You don't even need to worry about that. We already know that needs to change. But even that which may be not haram, but it's not beneficial, you can do a little bit of it, no problem. There's nothing wrong with doing a little bit of it. But for a person to spend so much hours on it that it wastes time and moves him away from that which is more important in his life, then this is a big issue. Now, we say not of worldly benefit or benefit of the hereafter. Yani a person, even many of the ulama, when they said, when Luqman says fansab, when you become free, fansab. You have tafsir of the ulama that says, once you become free, fansab, get up and pray. Get up and pray. Now do ibadah. Other ulama, they're bored in it. Even if you're not doing ibadah, but do something of benefit in dunya. Do something of benefit in dunya. So even your free time, your hobbies, your relaxation, try and make it of something which has benefit in this dunya. Someone doing a sport, someone learning a particular art, someone reading something beneficial. Let's say you want to watch something, if you can watch like a documentary, a beneficial podcast, someone doing something which actually brings some benefit, even if it's on matters of dunya. Another point, and the final one that we'll mention on it, don't allow yourself to be fooled by saying, I'm going to do something which in the worldly context is beneficial, to the extent that you use it even over the religious benefit. So don't say, yes, for example, being healthy, looking after yourself, going to the gym, mathalan, is very healthy. And it's very good for you, and it's productive, so I'm going to spend time on it. We say, yes, we agree. But don't go to the gym to the extent that you've never been to Surat al-Isha. Don't go to the gym or learn a martial art to the extent that you go 3, 4, 5 times a week and you don't know how to read Quran. Don't go to the gym or play sport to the extent that your own family doesn't see you. This is when it becomes counterproductive. Naam, and we spoke previously about how shaitan fools a person. If he can't get you to commit shirk and kufr, then he'll try and get you to commit major sins. Can't get you to commit major sins, to commit a lot of minor sins. Can't get you to commit even a lot of minor sins. He'll move you away from that which is good. He'll move you away from that which is good. As a Muslim, we're always meant to be improving in our ibadah. That's our lifestyle. We're always meant to be improving. We never say, I'm content with where I am. I'm at a plateau. Now I'm not, I'm sitting good. No, doesn't exist. How many gears? We've said this before. How many gears do we have in Islam? 2. What are they? Drive in reverse. That's all we have. Drive in reverse. If you're not moving forward, you're what? You're going backwards 100%. Naam, take that as a golden rule. So we, even now, alhamdulillah, if we've moved away from the haram, and now we're at that middle ground, where we're not doing haram things, but they may not necessarily be the most productive things in a worldly or religious sense. We want to move towards that which is more productive in a worldly sense. Alhamdulillah, we're sitting at a good level where we're not wasting too much time, where there's no benefit. There's benefit in a worldly sense. Now we want to move towards that which is religious, which is of religious benefit also. Okay, so don't fall into that mistake. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ. As we mentioned, the majority of the ulama, or the majority of the mufassirin, especially from the salaf, they would mention things regarding this verse, and all of it revolve around a person buying, for example, slave girls that are singers, or singing in general, and by singing here, they mean music, or, for example, musical instruments. Okay, all of it revolves around that. Or, as we mentioned, you can broaden it to that which is of no benefit. But the ulama that talk about music being haram, nowadays, unfortunately, and it creeps up even in things which are Islamic, you can almost not escape anything, anywhere, except that there's music. Okay? The problem is when it comes to, it becomes an Islamic norm, where we have anashid with music, Islamic movies with music, Muslim schools with music, everything now is music. Then they tell you there's difference of opinion. Is there a difference of opinion regarding music being halal or haram? The difference of opinion regarding music being halal or haram is so minute that you don't even talk about it. It's so minute that you don't even talk about it. Now None of the madhahib say music is halal. So you can get the vast majority of the ummah and say, okay, music is haram there. Who do they mainly follow when it comes to music being halal or haram? Anyone know which scholar they always use as a reference? Ibn Hazm. They always use Ibn Hazm as a reference. Do any of them take anything else besides that fatwa from Ibn Hazm? They would not take anything else except that fatwa from Ibn Hazm. And this is a big problem. If I left all of these ulama and I went to Ibn Hazm, why? The question is why? Why did I leave all of these ulama and I only went to him? Is there not something from following whims and desires in that matter? If you say, we believe Ibn Hazm had the strongest opinion, I'll say, okay, I respect you. If you believe Ibn Hazm was correct and they were all wrong because of the evidences, no issue. But bring the evidences. What's the evidences that you have? The main one is that they say there's nothing clear and authentic to say music is haram. There's nothing clear and authentic. So this ayah is obviously authentic, but it's not clear that it's talking about music. If you were to agree with them, we would say maybe, but the reality is there are many things in the Quran which the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the ones who understood the Quran best, gave the tafsir that it's talking about music. And then in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you have many things which clearly speak about ma'azif, musical instruments, and how they are haram. And if they are not haram, if you don't believe it's authentic, in one book of hadith, you find other books of hadith that speak about the same topic in which it is authentic. Now, the hadith for it is in Bukhari, but Bukhari, he has it as mu'allaq. Mu'allaq means he used it as a title or to assist the title in terms of the chapter. He didn't put it as part of the hadith in which he's saying these are the highest degree of authenticity. When he puts a hadith which is mu'allaq, doesn't mean that it's weak. It doesn't mean that it's weak. But it doesn't meet the highest level of authenticity that the rest of al-Bukhari, he forced himself to stick to. But like other ulama, like Ibn Hajar, rahimahumullah azza wa jal ajma'in, when they came and they gave the explanation of al-Bukhari, many of them, they took these mu'allaqat and they brought the chain of narrations from the other books of hadith and the other narrations that are out there, and they said, they showed you, and even in that mu'allaq, that they're authentic. Even in the mu'allaqat of al-Bukhari, that they're also authentic. As I mentioned, on top of there being other narrations that talk about also musical instruments being haram. So this is not something which, wallah, it's a matter of discussion. It's not that it's a matter of discussion. Whether you want to say the ulama, the vast majority of ulama, except for one or two that you're going to mention their name, which you take nothing else off. Or if you want to look at the evidences for music being halal are so clear. Okay, astaghfirullah, none of you stop me. You'll go happy. The evidences for music being haram is so clear. Naam. What's allowed and what's not allowed in terms of musical instruments. The only exception that the Prophet ﷺ made was for the duf. The only exception the Prophet made was for the duf, which is the one-sided drum. The one-sided drum. And the ulama say about it, its effect is not as profound as the other things. Even the tabal compared to the duf is nothing. Now the duf is nothing compared to the tabal. The double-sided one that you hit with like a stick. Okay, or the trumbakki. As it comes, the way it's shaped and the different sounds that it has. Okay, do they fall under or not? There's different type of opinion. Right, the safest is obviously to stay away from all of it. Okay, except the duf, because there's clear hadith that allow it. As we said, its effect is not as profound. Now, from the duf, okay, being allowed, who's allowed to use it? This is where there's difference of opinion. Some of the ulama, again, they were very strict with it. They said it's only for women and it's only on occasions. It's only for women and it's only for occasions. To be a little bit more relaxed with it, no issue, inshallah. And even if the men used it, okay, or is used a little bit more than occasions, no issue, inshallah, especially in the time and age that we live in the levels of deen, unfortunately, any plummeting. No issue, inshallah. A person doesn't have to be too strict with it. But we know that the duf is allowed, everything else, stay away from. As a bare minimum, the drums stay away from. If you don't say if it's completely haram, also. Now, as we said, there's some difference of opinion regarding that. Can men listen to women? Jazakallah khairan. The person, alhamdulillah, has been married for a long time. He said, yes, if you're married to them, you can listen to them. Now, in terms of female singers and those that beautify their voice, etc., then non-mahram male is obviously not allowed to listen to them. Okay? Can a person listen to anashid that has like the vocal melodies behind it? Yalla.
Yes.
Allahu Akbar.
It's not a musical instrument.
What if it sounds exactly like music?
You mean beatbox?
Beatboxing or the melody that sounds exactly like music. Though the anashid that have music behind it, the anashid that have the vocals behind it but sound exactly like music, this is not allowed to listen to. Why? Because the effect on the person is exactly the same. And the Sharia does not differentiate between things that have the same effect. Now, let's say something, a drug, mathalan, was the actual original or synthetic. The Sharia is going to say it's haram. Even though it's not from a plant, but the effect is the same. Same thing with the, in this regard. Now, if the vocals behind it sound exactly like music, it's not allowed. Now, if the vocals are like very basic and it's clear that it's a voice, okay, it's not, hasn't been manipulated, then inshallah that's not an issue. Okay, but when it sounds exactly like if you were to get someone and to put musical instruments and to put that person's background noises that they manipulate, they have the noise and then they manipulate it on the computer, okay, with software, and they would say it sounds exactly the same, or the effect on the person is exactly the same, then this is not allowed. Wallahu a'lam. Jayyid. This is a big one. I don't want to open up the door for it. Let's say a person came and said, should we do it on live or not? Let's say a person came and said, what about acapellas? Okay? Acapellas where it's like the vocals only. Not an acapella where they use their voice to make the sound as if it's the music. Something like they got a song, they took out the music, and there's only the voice. There's only the voice. Is that allowed or not allowed? Jayyid. Okay? It depends on the words. If the words are decent words, then in and of itself, there's nothing wrong in listening to it. In and of itself. Okay? If it's going to cause you to go and listen to the actual song, okay, or bring back certain memories and you're going to message certain people, then la. Okay? You're not allowed to do that. But if it's, the words are decent and it's not going to lead to that which is worse, in general, it's allowed. Now, but if, as I mentioned, it's going to lead to something else, then no. Or the words are bad, then no. Okay, if the words are bad, like promoting zina and stuff like that, then obviously it's not allowed. Wallahu a'lam. لِيُدِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. In other recitations on the Quran, لِيَضِلَّ. Okay, لِيَضِلَّ, and here لِيُدِلَّ. The difference between the two, one is for him to be misguided, لِيَضِلَّ, the other recitation of the Quran. Here, لِيُدِلَّ, and for him to misguide others. What's worse? For a person to be misguided or for him to misguide others? For you to be misguide others. That means you're misguided and now you're going to get the sins of the others that you misguide. Very, very, very important. If you commit a sin, there are levels of the sin that you commit. If you, ayadhan billah, have been afflicted in committing a sin, don't make that sin worse for yourself. Don't make the sin worse for yourself. How does a person make a sin worse for himself? Yalla, give me ways, quick. He publicizes it. Okay? He committed it, no one knew about it, he put it out there. This is a sin that you've publicized, you made it worse for yourself. What else? Calling others to it. Jayyid. What else? Justifying the sin that you committed. Saying, oh look, I know it's haram, but it's not that bad because of this reason, or I done it for this reason. Jayyid, and it's not an Islamic reason. What else? Selling it. Like making money off it. Very good. That's from the worst of the worst, to make that sin halal. Act as if the sin which is clearly haram is not haram in the first place. And not feeling guilty regarding it. Okay? Not feeling guilty regarding it. And you do it and I don't care of the consequences. All of these are ways of making the sin worse. If a person is afflicted with a sin, then hide that sin and feel guilty about that sin and ask Allah for forgiveness and intend to get better, etc. Now, but don't do the things that we just mentioned which make a sin worse. This is obviously one of the ways that people make sins worse, that they do something in order to not only be misguided but to misguide others. An sabilillah, from the path of Allah. An sabilillah. Okay? In the Arabic language you have sabil, which is singular. Plural is subul. Sabil, subul. Whenever Allah talks about guidance, He mentions it in what form? Singular or plural? Singular. Very important. Why? Because the path of the truth is one. The path of the truth is one. When it comes to matters of aqeedah, manhaj, etc., the path is one. There are times where there is flexibility allowed. There are times where there is flexibility and it remains on that path. That's not an issue. But when we talk about major things in the religion, especially when it comes to matters of belief, aqeedah, then there's no two ways about it. You can't have this be right and that be right. Okay, like we've done with the aqeedah of the Salaf series, this was one of the contradictory matters when it comes to like the Ash'ariyah and the Maturidiyah. They say, oh, we're both from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Hold on a second, pause. How can you say that we say that Allah has a hand but we don't know what it means? And they say Allah doesn't have a hand, it means power. How can you both say two completely separate things about the one thing which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in which there can't be two right answers and you say they're both acceptable? Hell, doesn't make sense. Jayyid. Matters where there's valid difference of opinion in fiqh based on the understanding of a hadith, etc., no issue. But major matters which is clear cut, this is one way. There's no two ways about it. Now, whether a person talks on a major scale, ayadhan billah, like us and the disbelievers. We can't say you're going to Jannah and we're going to Jannah. No. There's only one way to Jannah, that's the way of Islam. Or if it's inside Islam, between us and people of innovation. These major matters of innovation, especially matters of aqeedah, there's no acceptable two ways about it. Some minor branch matters, there may be room for valid difference of opinion. Naam, valid difference of opinion, which we don't say you've left the fold of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But major matters, the matters of usul, la, there's only one way that is correct. بِغَيْرِ عِلْم, without firm knowledge. These people, they move these people away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without firm knowledge and not understanding the true consequences of that which they are upon, or sometimes, as we mentioned, belittling or justifying what they are upon, or thinking that it's correct or beneficial and the like. وَيَتَّخِذَهُ هُزُوًا, and they mock the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, they mock the way of Allah azza wa jal. You as a believer, again, you need to know the shaitan. You need to know the way the enemies of the believers work. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ فَاتَّخِذُوهُ عَدُوًّا. Verily Satan to you is an enemy, so take him as an enemy. Satan is an enemy, so take him as an enemy. One of the ways that people will try and move a person away from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is through mockery. Mocking, belittling, etc. And this should not be a means for a person to leave the religion or to hide his Islam or to think that he's on the wrong path. There's a reason the Prophet ﷺ told us, towards the end of time, holding on to your religion will be like holding on to what? Hot coal. And there's a reason the Prophet ﷺ told us, Islam began as something strange and it will return back to being something strange. So glad tidings be to the strangers. There's a reason these ahadith were told to you. Why? So that you can ensure that you don't allow yourself to be moved away from the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if things get hard. From amongst the ways that things can make it hard is the mockery of others, the belittling of others. If you as a believer are going to be moved away from that, then you've lost the battle. You've lost the battle. You need to look at it like you are in a war with shaitan. Shaitan wants you to end up in a certain place. You don't want to end up there. إِنَّمَا يَدْعُ حِزْبُهُ لِيَكُونَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ الصَّعِيدِ. Hey, shaitan, iblis, he calls his people, he calls his followers to be from the companions of a blazing torment. You don't want to be from there. You don't want to end up in the hellfire. So don't fall for the tricks of shaitan. There are many tricks that he will use. Okay, making you fall into the fitan that you love, dunya, women, music, bad friends, etc., etc., etc. From amongst the ways is the mockery of others, the belittling of others. Don't allow yourself to fall victim to that. أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. These people who arrogantly denied the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who arrogantly went against the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by being misguided and doing what they could to misguide others, these people who arrogantly belittled the way of the believers, what's their recompense? For them will be a humiliating punishment. Muhin is a belittling of these people. إذا أهان الشخص الآخر, he belittles him, he humiliates him. This is عذاب muhin. الجزاء من جنس العمل. The recompense is in according to the action. You're going to get rewarded according to that which you do. الراحمون يرحمهم الله. True? Those who have mercy, Allah has mercy upon them. Okay, you do good, you're going to receive good like the good that you do. These people, they were arrogant They were arrogant when it came to the religion of Allah and the fighting of the believers, etc. So their punishment is a punishment of belittling and humiliation. Always remind yourself also of the hereafter and the consequences therein. For you, you're going to be on thrones, laughing at these people, mocking these people. Now, and these people who today, they enjoy maybe a few years, maybe even a few decades of having the upper hand, they will be, ayadun billah, a lifetime, and not a lifetime, an eternity in humiliation and punishment in the hereafter. Just like Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned the muhsineen and mentioned some of their traits, here Allah Azza wa Jal mentions the people of evil and some of their traits. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned the Quran as being mathani. Mathani, yani it comes always paired. Okay? Allah speaks about Jannah, speaks about Jahannam. Allah speaks about reward, Allah speaks about punishment. Speaks about goodness, Allah speaks about bad. Allah spoke about the good. Now Allah Azza wa Jal is going to mention some of the traits of the bad. وَإِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِ آيَاتُنَا وَلَّا مُسْتَكْبِرًا. If the verses of Allah are recited upon this person, he turns away with pride. كَأَنْ لَمْ يَسْمَعْهَا, as if he didn't hear it. كَأَنَّ فِي أُذُنَيْهِ وَقْرًا, as if there is deafness in this person's ears. فَبَشِّرُوا بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. So give him the glad tidings of a painful punishment and torment. Whenever you have the verses of Allah Azza wa Jalla recited upon you, make sure you pay attention. Whenever you have the verse of Allah recited upon you, pay attention. Remain silent and listen. Don't be a person who arrogantly turns away. This is from the way of the hypocrites and the disbelievers. That they would hear the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they would turn away from it. You as a believer don't have the option. You as a believer only have one choice. You hear the verses of Allah, you believe in it, and then you're meant to implement it. That should be how you are with all of the texts in Islam. The Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As for a person, ayadun billah, who ends up like this, he hears the verses of Allah and he turns away from it, he doesn't implement it, then this person, ayadun billah, is the person Allah Azza wa Jalla hates. Be very careful. Yes, this is talking about the disbelievers, and in other places talking about the hypocrites. But do not be a Muslim that follows in their footsteps. Do not be a Muslim that follows in their footsteps. As if he didn't hear it. Yani him hearing or him not hearing it, there's no benefit. And this is a dead heart. Yani even if a Muslim hears the verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and it doesn't cause him to change, it doesn't cause him to be admonished, it doesn't cause for him to rectify his ways, then what was the benefit of hearing it? This is a dead heart. This is a scary sign. This is the way of the disbelievers, the hypocrites. How can a person be a Muslim and feel comfortable hearing the verse of Allah, hearing the advice of Rasulullah and turning away from it as if he heard nothing from it? As if there was deafness, waqra, any heaviness in his ears. And if you want to picture it, because al-waqar comes linked with the likes of a camel. Okay, imagine there's a camel sitting in the person's ear. Any heaviness, deafness, he can't hear anything. It's not how a person is meant to be. Question: how does a person cause himself to hear the verses of Allah Azza wa Jalla and not pay attention to it? How does that process start?
Plays it in the background.
ايش؟ listening, like having on in the background, not paying attention to it. There's something bigger.
Something else in his heart.
Good. Starts from the heart. It starts from the heart. Allah Majid Barik. See, this guy wants to get married, man. Allah Khalikum Zawju. He's even answering the right questions. Subhanakallah. Allah Barik Fik Abdul Rahman. Do you have a link that we can leave for the people in case they want to get in contact with you? Put your number there. Inshallah. It starts with the heart. يعني there's a reason the Prophet ﷺ told us ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. Verily in the body there's a piece of flesh. If it is upright, the entire body will be upright, and if it is corrupt, the entire body will be corrupt. Verily it is the heart. This is where goodness, all of the goodness starts, and this is where the bad, all of the bad starts. A person who's an upright believer, does he any backflip tomorrow? It's very hard for him to backflip tomorrow. How does it start? It starts with the heart. A bit of love of haram, love of dunya, a little bit of hanging out with bad friends, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, until slowly things start to erode, things start to erode. The fences start to become weaker and weaker and weaker, and that's when a person eventually, it could be 2, 3, 4 years time, where a person, he will hear the verse of Allah and don't take any admission from it. He's the verse of Allah, has no effect on his heart whatsoever. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. Now, you need to be very careful. You don't put yourself in that position. Okay, and that comes through, as we mentioned, constantly holding yourself to account and constantly trying to get better. Not allowing yourself to plateau, because that only means, عياذ بالله, they're going to get worse. فَبَشِّرْهُ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Give him the glad tidings of painful torment. طيب. Al-Bushra, does it come for good or does it come for bad? Comes for good. In the Arabic language, it can come for good and or bad. Okay, it can come for either or. But the main use of al-bushra is for it to come in good. Here, some of the ulama said that Allah Azza wa Jal is belittling these people. Now, it's like mocking these people. These people that thought themselves great and worthy and amazing and safe, full of pride. No problem. Give this person, just like humiliating torment, give this guy the glad tidings of a painful punishment that he's going to endure. Allah Azza wa Jal goes back to the believers and he says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَهُمْ جَنَّةٌ النَّعِيمٌ. Verily those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do righteous deeds, for them will be gardens of delight. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Everywhere in the Quran you hear iman, what do you hear after? An action. Whether it's actions in general or a particular action. This is the norm. The Aqeedah of Al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah when it comes to iman is that iman is statements and actions. It goes up with good deeds and it goes down with sins. No one from the Salaf says that iman is belief in the heart only or statements only. You do have some that were called murji'atul fuqaha. Okay? Some of the people say this about Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, and this was rejected by the other ulama of the Salaf, where they said it is a statement on the tongue only. Okay, it's statement on the tongue only, and actions that come into it. As for the rest of the Salaf, that's wrong, by the way. This is wrong. The rest of the Salaf, they said, no, this is wrong, and this is irja'. Irja', a incorrect understanding where they separated between statements and actions. And that's why I laughed when this, wallah, I don't know what name you want to give him, but this person who talks, like he's a lion, Allahu Akbar. When anyways, this guy, bro, wallahi, salani, wallahi. When he talks about, when he spoke about iman, wallah, my jaw dropped. My jaw dropped. And he said, the iman is for a person to believe and for him to have statements. And he said, no one put actions as part of iman except the Khawarij. Like, Allah yahdik. Where did you get that from? Where did you get that from? Al-Bukhari rahimahullah says, I met over 1,000 scholars. Every single one of them says, iman is statements and actions. It goes up and it goes down. Where did you get that statement from? Which salaf do you follow? Which books of ilm do you read? Which books of aqidah and iman do you take from? For you to actually say a statement like that. Wallah, I was so shocked because you will not find the alim from the Salaf. You will not find the alim from the Salaf that says that. Even many of the Ahnaf, by the way, the madhahib are not linked to aqidah. Very important. The madhab is not linked to aqidah. It's not correct to say, wallah, the Shafi'iyya, the Ash'a'ira, and the Ahnaf, the Maturidiyya. It's not right to say. Why? The madhahib themselves are in fiqh. And there's no irtibat between fiqh and aqidah. You can be a Salafi Ash'ari. You can be, if you're that, Allah used to be, that's like part of the transgender community. This guy got no idea what he is. Naam. You can be, for example, a Shafi'i Ash'ari. You can be a Shafi'i Maturidi. You can be a Shafi'i Salafi. The same thing with a Hanafi Maturidi, Hanafi Salafi. The same thing with the Maliki. You can be a Maliki Ash'ari, you can be a Maliki Salafi. Same thing with the Hanabila. And you had that throughout history, you had that. You had ulama from each madhab that would be part of all the different types of aqaid. Not that it's acceptable, but to show you there's nothing linking this with this. If you are a Shafi'i in fiqh, you're a Shafi'i in fiqh. Aqidah is a completely different matter. So you have ulama from the Hanafi madhab that were upon the way of the Salaf that tried to even explain the words of Abu Hanifa and the belief of Abu Hanifa in matters of Iman, that it's according to the Aqidah al-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah, that it includes action. That it includes action. Either way, the ulama of the Salaf, they did have very strong rebuttals against Abu Hanifa rahimahullah in this matter. In this matter, because they said there was irja'ina, and there was even before that matters of i'tizal. Okay, this is like a whole different subject altogether. If you want to open up that can of worms. But why do I say it? Because it's important to understand that certain people, they claim certain things without going back to its reality. Without going back to its reality. People want to talk about the Aqidah of the Salaf without bringing one book from the Salaf. They won't bring one book from the Salaf. They'll bring ulama from the Salaf, they'll bring one statement. They'll leave 1,000 statements from that same alim and bring one statement which is vague. What you're saying we agree with from that scholar. Why don't you take anything else? Why don't you take anything else? They'll talk about, for example, in Al-Bukhari done ta'wil. Al-Bukhari done ta'wil. So we said wajh here, wajh in this particular verse means this. You will say no problem. Go to where he explains that also other places that it's the literal face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When they talk about Allah Azza wa Jalla ala al-arsh, why don't you mention in Al-Bukhari ala wartafa, above, ala wartafa? There's no way of explaining that. Ala wartafa, he is above the throne. Why don't you explain it to your people? Because you love to pick and choose, Habibi. That's simple. That's the way that you guys work. But this is the problem. This is why the ulama of the Salaf, just like we went through the series, they say, Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, when we went through his Risala as-Sunnah, that's why we don't debate with these people, that's why we don't argue with this, because no benefit. This person, his own source, your own source. Go back to and read it. Wallah, once, the stupidity of these people. Once, one of them, he bought certain books and he put it up online that he bought these books and he's happy. And that's a book from the Salaf. I said, if this guy reads that book and he's truthful, wallah, he'll become Sunni. He'll become, and when I mean Sunni, I mean Salafi. He's excited. He doesn't know. I'm telling you, they're silly. They're silly. I said, he was excited that he bought that book. I said, if he reads that book, because he thinks that's the Ash'ari book. He thinks that's the Ash'ari book. If he buys that book and he actually reads it, he's going to be Salafi. Do you think he became Salafi? No. Why? Why didn't you become Salafi after reading that book? If you didn't read it, which is one thing, or you read it and you turned away in arrogance. Either way, it's a problem. Whether it's ignorance or it's arrogance, it's a problem. Sometimes, wallah, when you talk about pick and choosing, sometimes they'll post a picture and they'll say, look, this alim, when he talk about al-istiwa, when he talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being above the throne, he mentioned that Allah Azza wa Jal is above in terms of, metaphorically, in terms of his power, his status, etc. So, mashallah, Jameel, which verse did you go to? You went to other verses. Hold on a second, pause. When you speak about istiwa, where are you meant to go? You're meant to go to Surat al-Baqarah, Habibi. The first time the ulama speak about it. Not when they mention it later on in their books. Go look at what they say at the beginning when they talk about Surat al-Baqarah. The same book that he posted. The same book, the same author. Not like different book, different author. Go to the verse in Surat al-Baqarah where he says, Allah is above the throne. Either you are a complete jahil, or you're a kadhab. You're a complete liar. Pick which one of the two you are. If you're a jahil, no problem. If you're a jahil, you made a simple mistake, you go back and you find it, and you come out and you say, I changed my words. The alim did not say that, or he did not mean that, or he did not mean what I said. Yes, he said Allah is above, of course. Allah is greater than everyone in status, without doubt. But go say that the alim said Allah is above the throne too, in person, with his that. Go say that if you're truthful. Or say, I know what the Salaf say, and I choose to refuse to accept it. I choose to not follow it. Let's say that to the people. Pick which one of the two it is. Pick one, but don't lie to the people. Don't lie and misguide the people, Allah understand. So Allah Azza wa Jalla here, He says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Those who believe and do righteous deeds. And this is the way of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. From the Salaf, clear-cut statements. Al-Bukhari and the rest. That Iman is belief in the heart, statements of the tongue, actions of the limbs. Actions on the limbs. And you cannot separate between them. For those people who have this true belief and they have these true actions of goodness, for them is paradise and gardens of delight. Gardens of delight. May Allah allow us to enter the paradise. the description of Jannah every single person should listen to, or should at least read. Do not allow yourself to be a Muslim that says, I want to work for Jannah, and not go through the understanding of what Jannah is. How you be, how you enter, what your house will be like, what your garden will be like, how your friends will be, how your family will be, the different levels in Jannah, the last person to enter the Jannah, seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the rivers in Jannah. Don't allow yourself to say, yes, I want to go to Jannah, I want to work for Jannah, but you don't know what Jannah is. You're not going to have that love for Jannah. With all due respect, you're not going to have that love for Jannah. Now you tell a young boy, you want to work for Jannah? Yeah, of course I want to work for Jannah. What's Jannah? Well, I don't know. How is a person going to care about it? Go tell your child, now, inshallah, what's a famous place besides Tokyo in Japan? And Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Osaka? Yeah, it sounds weird. طيب. Go to, what's your name, Ammo? Rayyan. Go to Rayyan, we're going to go to Osaka. You care? No. Go to Rami, that we're going to go to Osaka. Look at him, he's already making dua. Now, again, one knows, one doesn't know. This guy's thinking, oh, my dad's just going to take me to some boring place again. This guy's thinking, mad, I can't wait to go. Don't even worry about my bags, I'll buy from over there. Now, because the person knows. The person knows. Why does Allah praise the ulama in the Quran? Because the ulama know. And the ulama that know they're meant to implement. Same thing, you as a person. You know about Jannah, you want to go there. You know about Jahannam, you want to stay away from there. But a person who doesn't know about anything about Jahannam, you think he's scared of Jahannam? Not scared of Jahannam. Not scared of Jahannam. What was the problem of the people before us? Where they would say, we're going to get to Jahannam for a few days. Ayyam and ma'dudat. A small number of days. That's why they would turn away from the religion. That's why they would arrogantly kill and belie their prophets and messengers. Because to them, I don't need to follow the rules. What's the rules? Worst case, I'll break them, I'll go to Jahannam for a couple of days. What's the issue? I can handle that. They don't know that one day in Jahannam is equivalent to 1,000 years from what we are upon. كَأَلْفِ سَنَةٍ مِمَّا تَعُدُّونَ. This is one day in the hereafter, عِيَاذًا بِاللَّهِ. A person can't belittle it if he knows it. But if he doesn't know it, عِيَاذًا بِاللَّهِ, he thinks that it's absolutely nothing. And now when you get how many of the disbelievers now, they make jokes about Jahannam and I'm going to the hellfire, or it is what it is, or I'll get there, I hope it's not too hot, etc. There's none of this joking when a person gets there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes that خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا, they will be therein for eternity. وَعَدَ اللَّهِ حَقًّا, verily a true promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ, and He is the Almighty, the All-Wise. Aziz, that these people, they say what they say, they cause all this corruption, they're wrong, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the ability to take all of them. Allah has the ability to take all of these people. Allah has the ability to make every single person Muslim. Allah has the ability. That is Hakim. He allows it to get for a reason. He allows it to get for a reason. These people, not only are they building up evidences against themselves, but also it's a test for the believers to see who's truthful and sincere and, عياذا بالله, who's not. Any questions?